On the Pitch podcast, where we look at the funny side of football. I'm Guy Fagan, and in each show, I'm joined by a special guest, and we talk about their footballing experiences, anecdotes, and escapades. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you're not missing out. Again, be sure to subscribe to the show. Today, I'm joined by James Gardner, and we're going to be talking about his comedy career and also his career as a producer with Setanta Sports. And he's also played a little bit of professional football out in the Philippines. And he's also an avid Celtic supporter. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that as well. Okay, so welcome to the show, James. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. I don't know if anyone really wants to be an avid Celtic supporter right now, but better days coming, hopefully.
Let's hope so. Okay. All right. So how's it been going in lockdown, first of all?
Lockdown's it's been going all right, isn't it? Everyone says they do the same thing. You ask everyone, what have you been up to? Oh, not much. So, just baking banana bread and all that nonsense, and wow. not exercising. It's been all right. The football, I think, helped a little bit, but I hate watching it without fans. Although when they pipe in the artificial fan noise, I think it's going to be really disappointing when you go back to, especially in the Scottish League, a lot of fans where I think, there's less atmosphere now that there's people there because they'll not make as much noise, But lockdown's been going all right. It's been going as well as it can be. You're just walking around, looking at people with suspicious thinking, who cut your hair?
Well, there you go. There you go. Don't ask about my hair. Okay. And so in terms of your comedy career, how did you start doing stand-up? Because you've been going about a year now.
I think the good thing is you've got this fake year that we've had in lockdown, so I can say that I've been doing it 2 years, but really probably about a year in terms of actually out gigging. I started I used to be a TV presenter on the shopping channels, Price Drop TV and Bid Up TV, where the price would start at like $6,000 and it would drop to like, £40 for the frying pan. And I ended up going and doing a stand-up comedy course run by a guy called Logan Murray, and it was in London, and it was the big fella off them between us, the teacher.
Oh yeah.
That's where he sort of got his start in comedy, because he did this same course. It was really well sort of rated. So I went and did this stand-up comedy course in Camden over about 3 months, and you got to do gigs and stuff like that, and I never followed it up. I did like a handful of gigs after that, and then just never followed it up, and it took me 10 years to pick it up again. And actually the guy I've got to credit, I'll give him a wee name drop, the guy, football fans might know him, he'd be a good guy for the podcast actually, a guy called Jim Daly, who I think he's got like 50 million views on YouTube. He makes football like parody songs, mostly English Premier League stuff. So I think he does like a Virgin by Madonna, but instead of it's like a Virgil van Dijk. So I went to see his Fringe show in the summer before last, and it was like a football quiz thing. It was pretty good fun, and that kind of sort of re-inspired me to sort of take it up again and have a go. So it was going really well. I think I was doing pretty well and starting to get booked for more and more gigs, and sort of, you're on sort of paid bills with professional comedians, and then the old pandemic started. But I think that's just me. When I was at Setanta Sports, they put me on air and I got to present some of the Dutch football, and then the channel went bust. So I think basically anytime I get any level of progression, it's a death knell for whatever industry I'm in,
Oh God, here you go. So for anyone who's not familiar with your style of comedy, how would you describe it?
I would like to say funny, but I think it's self-deprecating, really. It's really just talking about the absurdity of my life, basically. So I hope people find it funny. I hope they just don't think, what a tosser, when they see me. But I think it's really just, I've done loads of different things, and I've normally made an ass of myself at some point. So it's really just kind of drawn on sort of, some of the more unusual circumstances that I've been in.
Okay. And in normal times, what sort of venues do you like to perform in? Obviously, you're down in London. Did you perform anywhere, kind of anywhere big in London? Anywhere you like to perform?
No, I'm like I'm a really fledgling comedian, so it's a bit. It must be a bit like playing in the lower leagues. You've really got to kind of serve your time and pay your dues. So, like doing big venues, I've done up in Glasgow. There's a place called the Rotunda Comedy Club that holds a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
I've managed to play there a couple of times, do a 10-minute spot. That's about as big as it's gotten for me. So it's like your pubs where sometimes I've done a few circuit gigs where we've been booked with professional comedians and there's an audience there of maybe 50 or 60, but for the most part, you've got to kind of sort of slog it out, as it were, in a lot of these, back rooms in pubs and community centres and church halls and anywhere that there's a gig going, a lot of charity gigs. You just got to kind of really put the time in, and you're standing in front of three people, and a lot of the time the crowd is just made up of other comedians, right? So you either get people who are laughing over the top, or you get people who are playing it tactically or going, I'm not fucking laughing for him because I'm going to do you. I'm not saying that was me, but I'm thinking like that. But a lot of the time you're doing gigs in front of 10 other comedians who have all seen you the 3 nights previously, because you're all just really, I would try and do maybe 4 or 5 gigs a week, and that's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and it's just to try and get the air miles in, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And I've heard that you like to do these parody songs that apparently might have gone a bit viral.
Yes, I, as a disliked, or maybe been disliked by the Celtic supporters, but Celtic, for me, Celtic is a brilliant football club, and it's founded on charitable values. That's how the club was formed, to feed Irish immigrants on the streets of Glasgow. More than a club, all these brilliant values that Jock Stein, the Lisbon Lions. It's about the heart and soul of a community in the East End of Glasgow. And I feel that Celtic lost their way. I have lost their way, and it kind of culminated in just bad decision making, total arrogance, discord from the fans, and then it really peaked. Their arrogance really peaked. They flew to Dubai in the middle of a lockdown. They were claiming furlough. By the way, there goes my job at Celtic TV. That'll be me. And I just thought it was shocking, and they were just giving you material every single day. So I did a couple of songs. One was an Only Fools and Horses parody, because Celtic had all these, sort of COVID issues, then decided to fly to Dubai with an injured defender. So Christopher Jullien, we signed for big money for Celtic, £7 million for a centre half. We tackled the post, right? Get stretchered off, right, out for the rest of the season. We took him to Dubai. The following week. He then got COVID, and then we lost 9 first-team players because of that. I mean, how could you not, right? So I wrote this daft song, and Rangers fans were sharing it with absolute delight. My brother, who's disabled, he's profoundly disabled, Alexander. He's fucking raging with me. Every time I, go to the back door to see him, can't speak, but puts his head forward, and he's telling me, he's looking at his hands and has to tell me to fuck off, because I've done these parody songs, and I've also used his favourite song as well, which is the New Radicals' "Get What You Give."
Okay, I remember that one. Going back a bit there. Wow. So, have you got any plans to do any more of these parody songs?
Yeah, I have. They've just been kind of quite useful things to try and keep your, I suppose, a wee bit of creativity going. Although someone then told me that comedians don't really like musical comedy and they look down their nose at it. So, fuck, I don't know if I should do anymore. The football ones, my mate Jim does them on YouTube all the time, like it's all English Premiership stuff. So I think they're quite useful to kind of get at some of the issues that are out there, because I think, for me, football's about the fans, and it's just turning into a business just now. And the players now, the money that they're earning, like, I think even in my time, I'm 38, I used to be a DJ in Glasgow. my CV's got more pages than the Bible. And you would be running around town with footballers maybe 20 years ago, and they were earning maybe 10, 20 grand a week then, and they were still in the same bars. Now these guys on 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 a week. It's not a working man's game anymore. So I think it's important to try and hold clubs to account for some of their behaviour. So I think there could be a couple of more parody songs in the offing. There's plenty of material anyway.
Yeah, great stuff. And especially with fans not in the grounds, they can't have a sing song. I think any kind of opportunity for a bit of banter and just taking the piss out of each other, I think people are going to just welcome that, aren't they?
Well, I think the thing that really annoys me with the players is I'm doing that now, right? I feel saying fuck off, because like we pay your wages. I mean, not that's the whole. The fans fuel everything, and like to walk on the pitch, it's kind of like let's not tell the peasants what we're talking about here. I think it's shocking, and also you need the fans because Celtic have become. Celtic had a bad season, but if you've not got the fans taking the piss out of you, what I think is you play for yourself. That's all the players play for themselves. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think like now, the players now are playing PlayStation. They stay up all night playing PlayStations. Years ago they bought with prostitutes, right? I'm not advocating that, but the players now are different. They're all teetotal. They're sitting playing PlayStation. They go for ice creams. They're not like them. Like, imagine Roy Keane saying, what are you doing last night? A Pro Evo tournament. Brian Robson playing the computer. Like, these were guys that would drink 18, 19 pints, I was told by Frank Stapleton, said they would drink pints and he'd be in front of training the next day. So the players are less resilient than they used to be. I think if they've got problems with the manager, people aren't confrontational anymore. Like you look at it now, hardly anyone wants to answer the phone. It's all texting. So I think you've got this modern group of players in their early 20s that are fucking Snapchatting and texting and sliding into DMs rather than sliding into tackles. And if they've got problems with the manager, they're not going to turn around and say to the manager, I'm fucking playing for you. They'll just go, all right, yeah, fine. And then they'll go out in a wee sulk, and then they won't run as hard as they would have. But at least when the fans are there, that holds it to account, because that way, if you don't want to track your runner because you think fucking manager's tactics are shite, I don't believe in this system, fuck him, let's get him sacked. If you're not tracking your runner, or whatever, if the fans are there, you're going to run because you think I'm going to look like a dick. They're going to scream at me. The fans aren't there, and I think players are just like fucking so what? Do you know what I mean? Like there's nothing holding them to account. So like you need the fans there to be. You need because you must have the players that get almost like a turn on and think, what, I'm going to play up to the fans here. Like Gaza. Gaza played in Scotland. I hated Gaza, but what a player. Celtic fans gave him dogs abuse, and he was like, it made him better. Do you know what I mean? Some guys like the pressure, some guys don't. I just think that there's without the fans and without the songs and without the sort of the piss taking, that you're losing about the best 10 or 15% that exists in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see it with the results as well. You get some crazy results, don't you? And sort of being home or away doesn't really count for anything anymore, or at the moment. Yeah, but you're right. I think it has gone the other way, hasn't it? It's gone sterile, and there's not as many personalities as there was even sort of 10 years ago. Yeah, so as a Celtic supporter and a football fan, how did you get into the sports journalism side, and how did that journey start?
So I got a job when I left university. I got a job as an assistant producer, just Setanta Sports, which is funny because I think when they launched, they did an advert and I think they pulled up at a burger van. It was like Celanta. Nobody could pronounce the name.
I've got it wrong already. I think
that was the whole point. That was the whole point of the advert, because everyone was like, "Oh, is it Setanta, Sultana?" So they took over the contract from Scottish football, because the Scottish football negotiation has been a bit of a shambles, because what happened with the SPL, for any, most of your listeners will turn off now because you're not interested in English football, maybe. What happened was the SPL had a deal on the table from Sky, 38 million for 4 years. And the SPL at that point thought, nah, we can get more than that. Let's knock the offer back, right? Because we're going to launch our own club channels, we'll make more money. So they knocked the offer back, Sky went like that, fine, no problem. And then the SPL had to go back to Sky and said, oh, please, sir, can I have some more? And they went, fuck off. So the SPL went to the BBC Scotland on a 2-year deal for like 6 million. I mean, it was like pennies. And then out the back of that, Setanta Sports took on the SPL and a really good deal for about 4 years. And they were setting up the office. They needed 2 experienced assistant producers and they wanted 2 people that they could just train up. And I was one of the 2 people. And to be honest, I mean, I really enjoy my job, right? But that was probably the best job you're ever going to get, because I grew up I would watch every bit of football highlights, I would read every sports column, and I'm really patriotic, as most Scottish people like to tell you that they are. But like, I would follow Scottish players when they went down south. Do you know what I mean? I'd like, you know, even like I'm looking at the Norwich result last night, 2 nights ago, I'm clicking to see, I think Grant Hanley, he's playing. So it was brilliant because all you did was you just watched football. I mean, you would log the game. So like all these, you know, Inverness Cali Thistle against Motherwell, you would sit and watch that and you would log the tapes. So you would go to the games. And what you have to, and I didn't know this, like when you go to the games, to turn a 90-minute tape into a highlights material is quite difficult, because in England, in the English Premier League, all the games are covered by a minimum 7-camera outside broadcast. So that's like what you would see on TV all cut in. Up in Scotland, for the large part, I think it's changed recently, but you'd be going to the games with a single camera. Sometimes there'd be another camera behind the goals, but they weren't connected. So you would need to sit on a gantry with the commentator. You would take your stopwatch and you'd need to sync your stopwatch to the time on the camera, which is called the time code. And then once the game would kick off, you would take notes, and it would be 15:01:40 kickoff, 15:15:38 shot off post, 2 stars, you know. And then you'd have the game's worth of highlights in your sheets. You'd go with the commentator who would interview the managers afterwards, and then you'd get handed these tapes to take back to an edit suite, and then you would edit the game, and it would take about 3 hours, 3-4 hours. You'd sit with an editor to get it down to like a 10-minute match highlight. And just as you were finished, right, you think, I'm out of here, it's like 10 o'clock at night. Somebody would hand you another 2 tapes and you'd have to do another game. I wouldn't leave until like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning every Saturday night, went to Sunday morning, and then we would go to the game, the live broadcast on the Sunday, and we would play out the highlights from the day before. But that used to cause chaos, because the newspapers would stitch you up all the time. Because I think the best thing just now is podcasts. I think it's brilliant because it's bringing a real democracy of fans who have got great knowledge to football, because a lot of sports journalists are lazy, really lazy, entitled newspapers. So you get guys going to games who literally, sometimes they wouldn't even bother going to the game, and it's the classic, you get a journalist in the pub saying, what happened today, mate? And they would fucking write a match report from somebody in the pub, or they'd be at the game, everyone's screaming, oh, it's a penalty, you'd be up the road, you've seen it once. I'd watch that incident about 10 times in the edit suite. I'd bring in my mate or my colleague, he'd be doing a different game. I said, do you think that's worth showing? Nah, shows it, nah, that's fuck all in that. Right, cool, we wouldn't show it. Then you turn up to the game the next day, you'd be live from Celtic Park, you would do the rehearsal, you'd play all the highlights through, and then my boss, a really fearsome guy called Colin Davidson, who used to throw tapes at you and all that if you got stuff wrong, he'd be going, Colin to James, like a top back panel, like CV, yes, Colin, why is the penalty incident not in this? It's in every fucking newspaper today. Are you blind? And you know, you'd be like on the verge of losing your job because some fucking sports journalist had said, you know, the game had turned on a penalty appeal that was denied, and like, I never touched it. You know, it was a brilliant job, but it was, for me, it was very, very stressful because there were just so many things that could go wrong, you know.
So I'm sure there were a lot of things that went wrong, wasn't there? So can you tell me some, tell me about some of your bad days at work?
You got a couple hours left. So it's basically the two that spring to mind. I loved it. It was a brilliant job, and we did everything. So like we used to make up the breaks, we used to make up all the montages that you would see at the top of games, player underlays, you know, where they would say, oh, you know, Henrik Larsson's been doing well, let's look at it, you know, and you start, so we'd have to make all these things. So attention to detail was critical, and you were under really big time constraints. And it got to a point, Setanta became so good at covering Scottish football that we used to do mini highlights at 5:15. So the game was finished at 5:15. You know, it could be close to 5 o'clock with injury time, late kickoff. You weren't allowed legally, you're not allowed legally in the UK to show live football between 3 and 5 o'clock because it's to protect supporters going to the game. So 5:15, you can show highlights of that game. But to edit those highlights in that short period of time, you had to have the games beamed back to an edit suite. And it was a really complicated process, and there was a lot of pressure on it. And I was sitting in the edit suite one day with an editor, he's a computer guy, would do it all. And I was doing St Mirren versus Hearts, right? And it was at St Mirren's ground. And the way that it would work, it was like the way iMovie was got all your stuff's digitised in, and you would put the goals down and the replays. And this game was 3-2, right? It was goals galore, man. So the goals that were scored for Hearts were identical by the same player, Rudy Scatchell, who scored the same goal pretty much twice. Edge of the box, ping left foot into the far corner. So you got 5 goals, and you lay it on the timeline as you go, and then you pop the tape in and you record it all to tape, and that's when you're meant to kind of watch it through. Now, normally, you'd watch that edit through a couple of times, you're not under that pressure. So I'm busy fucking doing different things. Look, yeah. And you see the goals go in, no, they're all in. Run the tape down to the edit into the studio. The guy that was the assistant producer at the time, a guy called Darryl Curry, presents the Scottish football on BT Sport. Brilliant guy, brilliant presenter. And I remember he phoned me up to the edit suite about 20 minutes later, and he said, hi mate, what was that game? And I was like, 3-2 to Hearts. I went, I think you missed a goal. And I was thinking, fuck off, phone down. And then my other pal phoned me up, and sure as fate, I had put out a game which Hearts had managed to win 2-2. I think I maybe saved the St Mirren manager from being sacked, but honestly, that came in a week where my boss had an appraisal, and he said to me, listen, really like what you do, blah, blah, blah. Your attention to detail, James, you just need to sharpen up on that. Don't worry about me, Gaffer. I will tighten up on that, sir. Message received. Fucking boom. Missed a goal out. It was honestly, it was devastating. But and like that kind of stuff could happen so easily. Like I was pretty creative. I was good at certain things, but my attention to detail probably wasn't great. And Celtic played Inverness Caledonian Thistle away from home. That was our live game. So the whole week you would spend creating all what we call the VT packages for that, and the opener and the theme to run through the show. And some said, James, you do the tail of the tape. So the previous meetings that Celtic and Inverness Caledonian Thistle this week. So I went away and I did something different that nobody else did. Everyone else just did goals and music. I got a Celtic fan, and we got him talking about the meeting. I got an Inverness fan from down from Inverness talking about the previous meeting. I filmed it trendy, got nice graphics made up, got all put together, took it up to Inverness Cali, and we were doing the rehearsal, and I was in charge of the VT side, and we were playing and this was in 2009, right? Okay. And we were playing the tape through in rehearsal. We would play everything through in rehearsal. And one of the boys went in the truck, in the TV truck, all the guys that do the replays, we're all in that truck, that's called the VT truck. And one of the guys, a guy called Scott Carroll, said, what's the date on that graphic, son? And I went, 2009. He went, oh, it says 2007, mate. Oh, fuck, I've done it again. I've done it again. And, you know, it comes up with this big graphic 2007, and it was, fuck, how the fuck have I got that so wrong? And my sort of boss at the time was a guy called Martin McNeil, who's Billy McNeil's son. Billy McNeil was the first British man to lift the European Cup, you know.
Sure.
So great guy, gentleman. Martin was his son, and Martin fucking loved bad news. If there was bad news, he acted like fucking smile went like that. So he said, he went, I'll go and tell him for you, son. I'm fucking, don't say anything. Fucking shut up. And I was like, how can I fix this? How can I fix this? Because my boss never noticed it. The executive producer never noticed it in rehearsal, right? And I thought, if this goes out on the main programme, I'll be sacked. And what happened was, my friend who would do the replays, you know, you can get the pens, and you can show the run that the player made. You know, fucking, he's apt to run. Well, what my mate did was, he waited. We practiced it. He got the pen, because that's all done in the TV truck, and you just do it and hope that it. When it animated, because the graphics animated, so it went 2007. Yeah. When it went to the 7, he just took a wee black line and fucking drew it to 9. and that's how we got away with that. So I mean, if he's watching now, then that's me. Come and get me now. But yeah, it was, honestly, man, stuff like that was stressful. Wow.
So can any of this footage, any of this material be found anywhere?
Do you know, I think I've got it. If anyone out there is able to do it for me, I've got it on what's called a digital tape. I've got it on a Digivita 124. Because I don't even think they use tapes anymore. I think it's just all online now. So I've actually got it all there. I think I maybe tried to burn some of that stuff just to prove that it never happened, you know.
Yeah, you don't want it to see the light of day, do you, really?
No, it's horrible. But the worst thing that ever happened to me, though, was, as a Celtic supporter, was the first season we covered the league was Martin O'Neill's last year.
Okay.
And Celtic beat Rangers 3 games to go, beat them 2-1 at Ibrox to go 5 points clear. And I think there's 3 games left. And Celtic won the following week against Hearts. The following week, they got beat by Hibs 3-1 at home. Scott Brown scored, I think, right when he was at Hibs. So Celtic went into the last game of the season 2 points ahead, right? Celtic were away to Motherwell, and Rangers were at away to Hibs. So first time we broadcast 2 games on different channels at the same time. Okay. I was working in the studio, and we were Celtic were winning 1-0, and Craig Bellamy was playing, John Hartson was playing, Sutton, they were all, and I remember you could hear everything in the studio. It's called, you've got this talk back panel, so you can hear executive producer talking to the presenter. So Colin Davidson saying to Rob McLean, who was our host, right, Rob, what we're going to do is we're going to go live on the pitch scenes. I want Martin O'Neill at full time. I want this, and this, and at that moment, right, Scott McDonald, who's a friend of mine, who later went on to play for Celtic. Scott McDonald fucking whacked two goals into the net within the last 5 minutes of the game. And Rangers, this is like a fucking Rangers advert, by the way. And Rangers fans call that Helicopter Sunday, because the helicopter literally was on its way to Motherwell with the trophy, and the fucking helicopter turns round mid-air. I mean, I don't know where else it's going to turn around other than mid-air. And Rangers won the league. And that, for me, was the worst moment of, because I mean, that's your team, that is your team, and I had to fucking work on the shoot and put together like a Rangers montage and all that, and it was disgusting. Okay, sounds like a bad day at work. So what's been your highlight of being a sports journalist, and yeah, is there a kind of flip side to that story? Probably the best thing is just, to be honest, just kind of getting to hang about with football players. Really, is, you know, like when I good friends with certain players. Like we would cover some English games. I would sit and chat with Lou McCarry and Frank Stapleton. You know, and they would Ronnie Whelan. You'd get to sit on a Saturday afternoon with Ronnie Whelan telling you that he didn't think that Stevie Gerrard could lace Graham Souness's boots. Do you know what I mean? Just hearing stories that guys would tell you, like, you know, John Hartson would tell me stories about what it was like training under Martin O'Neill and the difference between Gordon Strachan, and, you know, just stuff like that was brilliant. You know, watching guys on the TV, and then you got to kind of work with them, hang about with them, and you got to spend time with some real sort of legends. For me, probably the biggest legend was Billy McNeil. We got to, you know, sit in an office where he would come in, because we had Celtic TV, Rangers TV, and, you know, me and my friend, we'd get up out of our seat every time he walked into the room, and, you know, we'd call him Mr. McNeil, and he would just say, "That's Billy," and, you know, stuff like that. That for me was probably the highlight. Bertie Old, my dad's, you know, sort of favourite player, would come in and he would talk to you, and so it was nice, and just going up and getting to watch football for free. And also, I kind of, like, fans annoy me because fans talk a lot of shite. Like your own supporters, you know, because everyone always complains about one guy that they don't like, even if he does really well. Yeah. The great thing about the working at Setanta and stuff was you got to just sit on the gantry with a commentator, and you would just sit quietly and watch the game, and it was really brilliant because you actually had the best seat in the house, and you would just be able to watch the full game. So you got to see some cool stuff. And when we did the French leagues, we got to watch Eden Hazard make his debut for Lille as a 16-year-old. And we saw Karim Benzema make, you know, like, you know, his first season at Lyon, stuff like that. So, like, guys that you kind of like, well, I fucking knew he was going to be a player. That was really good because you had, like, an encyclopedic knowledge. I remember, like, Huntelaar at Ajax when he first started. And I remember as a Celtic fan being so excited that we signed Georgios Samaras, because I remember this wonder goal he scored at Heerenveen when we used to do the Dutch highlights. And Man City, you know, so I think I was the only person that was excited that we signed Georgios Samaras, apart from the Man City fans who were delighted that they got rid of him. But that for me, that was, they were definitely the best parts. Was just like getting to watch the team that you support, getting to go up to the ground where you would film training and, you know, do interviews and stuff like that. Those were for me the biggest highlights, you know. Like I used to DJ in nightclubs, so I would see a lot of players at night through that, and then I would get to see them through the day. So I think a lot of them kind of trusted you a bit more because they thought, all right, he's maybe one of the lads. So like, so that getting to just watch football, like I used to produce the German, French, Dutch leagues on Setanta. So like, I remember getting to watch, like I used to get to work with Adrian Durham, who's at TalkSport, who's a really good friend of mine, a dear friend of mine actually. So he loves to WhatsApp me whenever Celtic are doing shite, which is quite often just now. You know, Jim Proudfoot, Gabriel Marcotti, you got to work with these people and chat football with them, and it was just, it was good fun. You know, I got to I DJ'd at Scott McDonald's wedding, for example, and that also ended up really badly laterally for me because we got asked to DJ at his wedding and he was at Celtic, so I made up a particular CD that had, you know, various sort of anthems, you know, end of the night songs, Oasis, Don't Look Back in Anger. And then I also put so that was number 17. Track number 18 was You'll Never Walk Alone by Jerry and the Pacemakers. That's Celtic's anthem along Liverpool. So that's fine, no problem. A couple of weeks later, I was in a nightclub in a part of Glasgow doing a Friday night, and it was like a kind of indie night. And basically, the last song of the night, Oasis, Don't Look Back in Anger, big sing-along song. I can play it, and everyone's singing, I Can Wait. Don't look back. And because it's the last song, I'm not worrying what's going on. This certain CD deck that I was using, the auto cue was broken, and the auto cue basically stops tracks from playing right through. So rather than going from track 8 to track 9, it just track 8 and it finishes. Well, this one wasn't working, so the whole night I'm fucking pulling the fader down so that you can't hear the next track. Because it's the last song of the night, I didn't fucking pay any attention to it. And then in Glasgow, on a Friday night, 3 o'clock in the morning, the first line of When You Walk, shit, I had to turn the music off. Well, a full-scale riot broke out at this nightclub called Fury Murray's in Paisley because half the club start singing You'll Never Walk Alone. The other half of the club start singing fucking Tina Turner, You're Simply the Best. And it took an hour to get out of the nightclub. And all the bouncers were just looking at me going, what the fuck are you doing? So, so you'd have to be careful about songs you used and all that. That's just the way it is. Glasgow's a big football place.
There you go. And you managed to get out alive anyway.
Just about.
And DJ another night. And so as well, you actually played professionally in the Philippines. So how did that all happen?
I did, yes. So somebody that I used to DJ with, a guy called Paul Fox, he ended up he runs a betting company out in Manila. So most betting companies, betting's illegal in China, so all the betting companies are running from like the Philippines. And he was out there and he said to me, listen, they've got a football league out here and all the games are on TV and they're not very good. You might get a chance at playing. So I went out and I got a trial and I managed to sign for a team that played full time. But I was 30 at this point, and like I was an average, or maybe if I was being kind of above average amateur football player. And I signed for this team. And actually the manager used to play for Rangers, a guy called Brian Reid, and he was from Glasgow, which helped. But I turned up and I remember this guy from England had signed, a guy called Ben Starosta, who played for like Bradford, Darlington. I think he played a few times in the Premier League for Sheffield United. And he was like, oh, all right, mate. He's like, what teams have you played for? And I was like, yeah, just a few teams in Glasgow, I was like, not realising it was like, Kings Park Rangers and stuff like that, and just like, local teams. But it was a great laugh, but I was fucking useless, man. People say you can have brains in your feet.
Yeah.
I don't have any brains in my feet. I like to think I'm an intelligent guy, but like we would train at 8 in the morning. It would be 32 degrees by the time 8:30 would hit. I'd run out into the middle of the pitch, take a touch. You'd be doing passing drills. By the time the third pass went in, I'd be literally standing there, and like the gaffer would be shouting, "Have you been on a whiskey last night?" And it was just. Used to get panic attacks when we would put the cones down each morning, because I'd be thinking, oh fucking hell, where do you go? And I'd be asking boys like, so right, do you go there, take a touch, turn back in, and what do you do after that? And they'd be like, mate, just follow the guy in front of you. It was hard going. I played about 7 or 8 games, just like coming on as a sub. Like I had a really good attitude. Like, if somebody wanted you to touch their balls, footballs, that would be me. I'd be like, I'll go and get the balls, bring in the net. Yes, gaffer, I'll do that.
Okay.
I'd like a really good attitude.
All right. So you had a few substitute appearances, and did you have a score or?
No, my claim to fame is that I scored 2 in my trial match, and that's what led them to sign me. They were really short of strikers. And what happened was anyone that played for the Philippine national team played for our side. They were called Global FC. So they actually, they used to take players away and it would decimate the squad. So like I would be doing everything to put people, and every time I turned up to training, there was somebody else from the UK there on trial. Like I remember the boy Adam Boyd was there on trial. Adam Boyd had been signed for Luton for 600 grand, right? I played amateur football. So I'd be trying to put people off signing. I'm like, mate, I don't think you'll like it here. I'm not paying you and all that. I'd be doing anything to fucking put them off to try and keep my place in the squad and stuff like that. But it was good fun. But I now realise like the difference in levels, because if you play 5s or even play 11s with someone who's played at a level and you do all right, you think fucking not as bad as him. He's not much. The difference is, like when we would do training drills and they would say, right, take it here and drill it in on your left, I'd be swinging at it, falling over. Like I couldn't do half the things. These were guys that had played at a decent level all their life and had been coached 4 or 5 nights a week. And I was, the old Wednesday night 1 hour training session, Saturday game. So it's you're miles apart, But it was a brilliant opportunity. It was good fun. And when they released me, the owner said, listen, we know you like the media, so I want you to go down to ABS, CBN, that was a big network. And I ended up working as a co-commentator on Turkmenistan versus Cambodia.
Wow.
So there's footage there, and I'm giving it, yes, you know, Turkmenistan, you know, don't underestimate them at your peril, because they've got some big players. And listen, football, you know, game of two halves, anything can happen. And, you know, these guys mean business. These guys mean business.
Bringing out the cliches.
100%.
Good stuff. All right. So you didn't get to your testimonial then out there?
No.
Not make that.
No, I didn't make it. It was it was great. It was great fun, and they're kind of really trying to develop Filipino football out there. So I think now they've got like a 3-4 in a row. But a lot of the guys were all like, you know, Filipino German, Filipino Dutch, Filipino French. They'd maybe been at sort of European clubs up to they were maybe 18, 19. So there was guys there. Like we used to do the wee boxes, you know, the one touch possession. I used to fucking shit myself anytime the ball came near me, because like, I just don't know how people, like, I'd be thinking about the past 10 minutes later, like, oh fuck, I should have passed it to him. Like, these guys were just on a different level. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's you always think, most guys think, I could have played professional, and you just fucking no chance. I mean, there used to be, wherever training pitch was, everyone shared the training pitch, and it was in the middle of Manila, a big city, and it's totally built up now. The way we played was a bit of a kind of outpost, and there was no traffic lights, so there used to be car crashes every day at training, like cars on their side, and yet people used to say that I was the biggest car crash at training. So that, you know, that gives you an idea of how good I was.
Okay, here you go. If people want to find your maybe your kind of your Celtic song or any of your stuff online, how do they find you, James?
Well, as long as you don't work for the HMRC, right, or the Department of Work and Pensions, that's fine. No, you can find me. I'm on Instagram with the very extravagantly named J Gardner 164. That's it. I think there was 163 previous J Gardner, so I think I took the only one that was available. So if you want to find me, I'm on Instagram. There's loads of pictures of my dog, and there's some comedy clips there as well. And I'll just, you know, name drop as often as I can as well.